Okay. Great opportunity for everybody to get something to eat or get a drink if you haven't. We're going to start the program, and I'm going to actually turn it over to Jidi. Jidi is a documentary filmmaker. She says she's an occasional writer, and she is the founder of the production company One More Question. She's created documentaries for Al Jazeera, Channel News Asia, Discovery and Vice, and she aims to give platforms to people often left out from mainstream reporting, like this. Her work has taken her to the far corners of the world, from the barren borderlands between China and Russia, slums in Kenya, Colombia's Coffee Triangle, and this is her latest film, the Rohingya Ramadan. This was shot in 2025, over a month. So, you know, she was in the camp for an extended period of time, so that's how she was able to really develop these relationships. And in what is, of course, as we all know, the world's largest refugee camp in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. So let me turn it over to you, and why don't you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to do this film and what your takeaways from it? I mean, obviously it's a great sense of satisfaction having finished this film and now seeing the results of it. So tell us tell us all about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. And also I wanted to thank the team because it's of course not just me. The producer is actually sitting with one of our panelists, so he just watched the film for the first time, and our cinematographer, Yassin, was not even able to watch this today because he is filming something else, an investigation on other troubles in the camp. But we do have with us today Okan Situ, if you want to stand up. He was the script editor and post-producer for this film. And our editor, Gongwei Yan, if you want to stand up, he flew in from Chiang Mai today to attend. So yeah, I think why I started doing this film, or what made me think about this, is like I've been living here in Bangkok for the past 3 years, and I've come to know many people who are working on Rohingya-related issues, Myanmar crisis, and even further back, I remember reading the news about the massacres in Rakhine State in Myanmar in 2017, and the stream of refugees that started going into Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. And I guess I noticed that a lot of the mainstream media coverage since has been through the lens of, like, you know, a lot of numbers, the magnitude of the humanitarian crisis, like how much funding is lacking, more waves of violence, more people fleeing into Bangladesh. And I think for me as a documentary maker, and my background is actually a little bit more in ethnographic research, I always wonder about the people and people's kind of experiences beyond perhaps some of the headlines that we get to see. And then when I realized that Al Jazeera actually has a slot specifically for Ramadan programming, I thought it could be like kind of a worthwhile frame for this documentary, especially because the Rohingya are also being persecuted for being Muslim. And then, yeah, I've moved around a bit myself, and I'm always quite conscious of, you know, telling stories as an outsider and what that means, and kind of like, you know, being able to provide like co-authorship to people who are from the community themselves. So I started this actually by reaching out to Rohingya activist who is quite well known, Nason Lin. I basically hunted him down on Instagram and Facebook and asked him to get on a call from me, where I was basically asking him for his blessing, or wondering if he thought it was a good idea, and then asking him for his blessing, and also wondering if he knew anyone in the camps that I could collaborate with to actually make this film. And he introduced me to the wonderful researcher, producer Sohel and the cinematographer, photographer Yassin, Abdumonab, and they immediately said yes. They asked me, how can we help, and what do you need to like get this film made? So yeah, Phil also asked me in our preparation for today's event what some of the challenges were that I faced while filming this. And I think because I had such an incredible team, I actually didn't face too many challenges, and the process of filming in the camp was relatively smooth. And I think we were able to find these incredible people who are willing to give their story and also give their time because Sohel and Yassin were really seen as these like kind of community examples, and they had such great relationship that also forged this trust. So there was this kind of reassurance on their part that they wouldn't be misrepresented. And oftentimes during filming, as you could see, we attracted a lot of attention. Everyone would come up and ask them, like, what is this foreigner up to? Like, is she good? Is she good people? Can you vouch for her? So that was like quite funny. And I think before, a reflection that I had was that before I did this project, maybe I didn't fully grasp what it meant to be stateless on a sort of practical level. So I think I imagined, like, yes, if you're stateless, then, for example, you don't have ID documentation, you don't have a passport, so cross-border travel will be very challenging. But there were so many other challenges that I've come to learn about. And so I have one example. During pre-production, I actually wanted to make a money transfer to the crew there so that they could rent equipment. And so I asked them, like, send me an invoice with your bank details on it, please. And then they asked me, like, quite kindly, they were like, ooh, can you maybe make a Bcash transfer? Bcash is a mobile app, mobile wallet in Bangladesh. And then I naively said, a bank transfer would be easier, until I was reminded that it's nearly impossible to open a bank account if you don't actually have an ID or documentation. So then I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it on Bcash. So while I was, like, preparing that transfer, it prompted me to fill in an address. So I asked them again, like, what is the address? And then I realized, well, shelter blocks and refugee camps are not really kind of listed addresses. And in my own sense, I didn't treat, like, Sohel and Yassin as any differently from other international crew members that I work with. But even for them, the simple act of, like, getting paid for their work poses so many hurdles for them that, I guess that's like a small example of, like, not being able to open a bank account. But even imagine, like, all of the online shopping that we're doing, like, I don't know, food delivery, like, whatever you want to do is just, like, not really possible. And then I think in deciding who to follow for this documentary, I was quite keen on having, like, an ensemble of, like, different so-called, like, characters, and especially also a few that you might not expect in this context. So, like, the first rapper in the camp, Rohel Khan, he came up to me, so I hadn't prepared to film him, but he came up to me to chat, and he was like, hey, I make music, can I play it for you? And I really liked his music. So I was thinking about, we were already filming with some of the other people, but then I thought, like, let me ask him if he wants to maybe be featured in a documentary, and also if I could license his music. He said yes, but he had a condition. He said, I will only join you for your documentary if you join me for an interview for my YouTube channel. And I agreed. And then I was like, well, but I also need you to find one of your parents, convince one of your parents to sign a consent form because you are still a minor. And then he was like, okay, I can do that. And I think, yeah, the little negotiation really still makes me smile, because after he uploaded the little interview video with me on his YouTube, it was titled Interview with the Foreigner. But I think it just, like, said to me that he knows the value of content so well. He prepared, like, sharp questions, and he even had this, like, little game that he edited a snippet into the first 15 seconds as a hook to basically work the YouTube algorithm. And this is working incredibly well because he knows what he's doing, because he has, I just checked yesterday, he has like 180,000 followers on YouTube. But I think that level of exposure also came with a lot of risk. So a few months ago, I found out that, yeah, not everyone is, like, supportive of his work, and he has been receiving death threats from religious extremist groups in the camps. And he had to live outside of the camp. He had to move his family out just for safety, and you can imagine, like, you know, renting a place which you're not allowed to do legally is like a massive strain on his family's resources, basically. And then I think a final thought that I want to share today is about how storytelling functions for people with less agency. I read this book a while ago called The Ungrateful Refugee by the Iranian-American author, writer Dina Nayeri. She critiqued how many asylum and sort of host country systems demand refugee to deliver these kind of like perfect narratives. So it needs to be coherent, it needs to be trauma-focused, it needs to be tidy victim tropes, and basically erasing any type of complexity. So they're only allowed to narrate their victimhood, and only then are they perceived as like kind of credible people. And in some interviews, I kind of noticed these patterns or these versions of that myself as well, the way that some people were telling their stories followed these like very kind of structured patterns. And when I would probe into their feelings or ask them to describe their internal world to me, they were kind of confused, and I could see them were trying to make sort of like a calculated guess about what they thought I wanted to hear. And I think throughout the month while I was there, I was like thinking about, reflecting about on that a lot. I think I was able to kind of place where it comes from, because I realized that many Rohingya people in the camps barely have any interactions with people outside of their community, unless it's a NGO conducting a survey, usually about something terrible, or they want to inquire about their resettlement cases, or they have to navigate some other camp bureaucracy. So it's like no wonder that me being the foreigner, they were trying to give me kind of these like semi-scripted responses, because that's what they thought that I came to film or came to document. So I guess in this way, this film is my small attempt to kind of observe, go along with the people, listen to thoughts that don't quite neatly fit into that kind of a narrative box. And I'm gonna stop here to also give our other amazing panelists some time to speak. I have a long read coming out this Sunday on Guernica magazine, where I was able to write some more of my own reflections, which I did not want to insert into the film because the film was not about me.
Yeah. Let me just ask you one question before we turn to the next panelist. I mean, obviously you were all over the camps, you were going everywhere. Did you run into problems with the authorities? How did you manage to get permission to do this?
Yeah, great question. I did not run into any problems with the authorities, also because I was quite transparent about what I was doing. So it's actually the structure is like, there's many different camps, and each camp has their sort of like camp in charge is what it's called, like office. So whenever I would be filming in their camp or was planning to, I would actually just go to the camp in charge, introduce myself, introduce the project. And I think it also helped very much that this was a project about Ramadan. I think whenever you mention like it's about Ramadan, they think that, that's great, basically. And actually one of the people, Mr. Souza, who is here on the call, was also of tremendous help for securing the access, but also just making sure that the authorities knew what I was doing and that I would be safe. Yeah.
Right, great. Thank you. Now we're going to turn next to Abdullah Bashor. He's one of the people who appeared in the film. He's a Rohingya photographer and a videographer. He's, as he mentioned, the film from Mongdao. He fled to Bangladesh in 2017. His work has been published by the Asia Times, by Westward. He's done exhibits at the Oxford Human Rights Festival and the Ottawa Human Rights Center. Well, his work has been there. Unfortunately, he's not been there. He's still in the camp. And he joined this documentary to give the world a look into the life inside the refugee camp. So Abdullah is with us. Yeah. There he is.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate it. Can you tell us a little bit about, what it's like to be a storyteller and a photographer under such challenging conditions in the camp? I mean, we saw you going around in the documentary, taking photos in the camp with many different people. what's it like and what inspires you to keep going? I mean, I assume that you probably have taken photos of almost everything at this point.
Exactly. Thank you so much, and everyone listening to me and participated in this call. My name is Abdullah. I'm a Rohingya refugee storyteller. So I've been in Bangladesh in the refugee camp for last almost 9 years, from last 2017. So I originally from Myanmar, Rakhine State. So being a storyteller, I mean a refugee storyteller, is like for me, a voice for the community. So we are here, in a harsh condition. So for last 8 years, obviously we didn't have a normal life like people have, so in their ordinary, daily life. Uh, so when I was just fled and arrived to Bangladesh, so the situation on my people was not uh, like normal. It was like too horrible to see people sleeping on the roadside, under the open sky, on the mud floor. So yeah, at that time we didn't have much attention from the local community, but it was happened gradually. So when we just arrived, so I thought that should be told, that should be shared to the people around the world, because in the Rohingya community in Myanmar, so in their own country, have been facing the systematic discrimination and persecution for long, time, like for decades. So, and in our community, our voice was, totally uh, like we didn't have voice. Uh, we could not able to speak up for the persecution we have been facing. So, but in Bangladesh, when we are, as a displaced people arrive, so no one was stopping us to speak up. And I thought it is the time to speak up and share the message to through the wall so that people know about our situation. And that's why, I never had a good training or any like study specifically on the street alien. I just had a smartphone and I have a camera in the phone, so I took the advantage of this, and then I started clicking the photos and recording the videos of the people and sharing on my social, platform. That's how I became a storyteller in the camp, and I continuously, doing this job for last uh, 9 years. And so when I met with Jidi, when she was introduced through my friends like Sohel and Yassin, so and I met her and she explained about the film, and I was so interested to be film. So and because so being a storyteller, I always try to share the situation in the camp through anyway, like whatever it is, the ways, but my intention always stay, you know, to be share the message through the world. So then, yeah, in the camp, I usually take the photos and make videos, and it is a my regular activity, and mostly I focus on the people. On the daily life in the camp. So how people spend their time, and what is the difficulties that people mostly face. Like we have always problem and food shortages and funding cuts and other several difficulties. So we always highlight those kind of condition uh, because the Rohingya people are entirely dependent on the humanitarian aids that is coming through the world. So uh, my I think so. If we do not speak for situation, so so then the people the people will be forget the Rohingya people. So my thinking is that we need to keep speaking, and sharing our voice so that the people in the world will not forget us.
And I know that this film was done last year, in Ramadan last year. Now, this year, we're at Ramadan again. So, I mean, you're observing every day what is happening in the camps. What has changed? Is the situation getting better? Or is it getting worse? Or is it about the same? How would you analyze that?
I think the situation is remain the same. Even in some point, it has worsened. Like we had a food cut during the last year Ramadan, and it was shortly, I think the fund was mobilized by the World Food Program. This year, also in the same Ramadan, we could hear about the further funding cut of ration cut will be happening soon. So also the same trauma, the same sadness among the people, and they are worrying also what will be happening. If the ration cut happen again, and also this is so dramatic. Like people will have different portion of the ration. Like someone will get $7 per month. Some people will get $10. Some people will get $12 per month. It is just saying the information is not confirmed, but the possibility is much. The ration cut will happen by looking like the situation around the world. Like so, already the funding cut is there, and on top of that, we can see the global situation is not good. Due to the ongoing, conflict across the world. So ultimately, whenever there is a tension, in any corner of the world, so it is directly affecting to a refugee community anywhere in the world. So here also in the Bangladesh refugee camp, we have the similar situation. We didn't see any good changes yet happen from last, Ramadan to until now.
And there's supposedly rumors of some sort of movement toward a tiered system for the food rations, different vulnerability groups getting more or less. Are you hearing anything more about that?
Yeah, already I mentioned about it. So we have also similar rumors like the ration cut will happen very soon. Probably, so according to some of the sources, it is saying that the ration cut will happen from next month, from April.
Excellent. So how did it feel to be in this documentary? I mean, normally you're following people around taking their photos. Now somebody's following you around.
So I mean, it is a great experience for me. Someone, I always film to the people, and someone film me and my work. So it's kind of a good experience for me. Also, someone helped me to share my own story. So I feel like it's kind of privilege for me that my story was shared through of this documentary film, and that I'm working as a storyteller here, and I'm telling the story of my own people. And so a storyteller, the story of the storyteller was being filmed. So this kind of, good experience.
Thank you. So stay on the line. We're going to have questions in a little bit. But now I'm going to turn to Salman Khan. Salman, he joined Médecins Sans Frontières in Bangladesh in 2017 amid the Rohingya crisis. He grew up in Cox's Bazar, and he witnessed thousands of people fleeing violence in Rakhine State. His work with MSF covers hospitals, borders, and camps, and he engages deeply with the Rohingya community. Today, he's leading a 14-person team, and he is working to bring refugee perspectives into humanitarian advocacy to improve camp conditions. So, Salman, tell us a little bit about what MSF is doing in the camps.
Very good evening to everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here and also see some familiar faces like Suja and Abdullah and Jidi as well. Hope you are doing well. So before actually speaking about how we work here in the camp, and it would be better to give you an idea how MSF is connected with Bangladesh and history and so on. MSF has been working in Bangladesh since 1972 and following the country's liberation war, basically supporting in the rebuilding of health infrastructure in particularly in Dhaka, Pune, and northern western cities. So over the year, MSF responded to different climate challenges and natural disasters as well within Bangladesh. And with Rohingya, basically, it started since 90s that we have been, the clinic was settled up, and we officially opened the clinic in 2008. So it's a long history that MSF is present here in Bangladesh. Um, at the moment, we have three big hospitals within the camp, inside and outside, and we have two primary healthcare facilities inside the camp. We have two specialized outpatient departments within the camp. We have two emergency preparedness facilities to tackle any of the emergencies like diphtheria, cholera, or any such public health disease. Then we have also additional facility like well equipped to tackle any sort of health emergencies. So if I tell you about the key medical activities trends that we observe in 2025, is basically there is a big population that are living in the camp, and now it's compared if we look back from 2024, according to UNHCR, it says 17% increase of total population, but services remains the same and struggling with fundings. So at this time, our capacity is also, we are also struggling to provide the service care. We have to also make some decisions to make sure that vulnerable groups and those people who are in urgent need meets with the care. We also have to change some strategies that meets the need. So basically, if I talk about maternal health, we have been supporting major maternal health support system in the camp. We have supported like 35,000 more women within the community and within Bangladeshi community. But people still struggle in the camp to meet the maternal health care because there are a lot of challenges related to transportation, related to limited access to emergency obstetric healthcare like CMONs and stuff like that. So actually the situation is also impacting on the mental health. When we look back our data, we are seeing the trends of number of consultation are being higher and higher if we compare the previous years in a row. So last year in 2025, we have like 75,000 people. That is 20% or so increase than previous years. People are coming with complaints like sleeplessness and then psychiatric issues and domestic abuse, psychological distress. So these are also indicating of the situation is getting more like worse, not getting better. On the other hand, chronic diseases, like sometimes it feels like overlooked. The living condition in the camp, like it's really challenging to maintain medication like disease like diabetes and hypertension, which requires long-term medication. And there is also shortage of medicine supplies and interruption in medical supply that require instantly in the long run. So in terms of also violence cases that we thought around the year 2025, the violence remains come, but we see the number of cases are actually higher, that the patterns has changed. The number of cases where we have seen like bullet shot injuries in the past, now it's more like family conflict and abuses and intimate partner violence, which influenced by the ongoing trauma, ongoing crisis, ongoing tensions within the community, lack of livelihood opportunities, lack of financial support system that they are seeking for. I think I would stop there unless you
Well,
have any specific questions.
No, well, I mean,
yeah.
the other question I have for you, of course, I know, one of the narratives, particularly in the last this year, has been, of course, the aid cuts, and that there's been massive aid cuts from the U.S., but also from many European member states, EU member states, and others. There's been sort of a pullback from humanitarian assistance, not just in the camp there, but also around the world. And how's that affecting your work?
So basically, the announcement or the funding cut has been well visible and well known during the January 2025, and we are still not seeing direct impact in health in terms of numbers and statics. But indeed, there are challenges in the camp that's going on. It's not appearing in our facility, but however, the changes in the camp, like agencies handing over their activities, cannot run their activities in full capacity or minimizing their services, it's definitely impacting on the general health system. Because if we are in capacity, we have capacity, but others are closing down, others are minimizing their services, definitely it will be coming to impact our operations as well. But we are anticipating it will be more visible in 2026, following the coming months, basically.
So the situation doesn't sound like it's getting better; it's getting worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. All right. Hang on. We're gonna get to questions. I'm gonna bring in the third speaker. We have ASM Souza Udin, who's a South Asian minority refugee expert. He has 12 plus years experience researching the Rohingya crisis in Bangladesh and Myanmar. He contributes field insights and analysis to 50 plus international media, focusing on rights, protection, borders, regional policy, and assisting in liaising with local authorities for this documentary, Rohingya Ramadan. So he also serves as the head of the South Asian desk and a member secretary of the National Citizen Party of Bangladesh. That was established in 2025. Souza, in addition to talking about some of the policy challenges, I think the first thing we want to know is how difficult was it for you to liaise to get this film to be made in the refugee camp? I mean, how hard was it? Because, I've worked in refugee camps in Thailand, and somebody was walking around with a camera back in the day, you'd have the Ministry of Interior all over you. So how difficult was that? And tell us a little bit about not only organizing that, but then also your work on the policy level dealing with these issues.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible. You're hearing me right away.
Yeah, we hear you fine.
So basically, okay. So basically, like what I have learned from a decade of my life, the most of my friends, like Abdullah and others, and I have seen that the way they struggled, the way they came across from Rakhine to the Bangladesh, and I see when Abdullah once he told me that he said I'm here not by not by choice, I'm here by chance. So this is something really first time triggered in my mind, because this is a collective failure of, I can say that, total humanitarian response, and also the policy response of external, internals, and also the international communities, how this challenge the people, those who are living in the very tough situation, they're facing the problems, for a long time. So when I started working and doing journalism, and also started figuring the fact and connect with the people, but in one moment I figured out that still there's a huge challenges, those who are trying to do that, those who are working, because there's a lot of policy barriers. They're not able to come out from the camp And though they're getting access, and sometimes they have information as aid, but still they're not able to communicate with the people from here and also the other part of the world. So then I feel that no, this is my time to really connect with the people, especially those who are working in the governments, and especially those who are really experienced. Because international journalists, especially if I talk about the Jidi, like, you know, the way she really ensure the mainstream participations of the people, it is really outstanding, and it's really amazing, you know, like, which is really remarkable, because the way she figured out the fact, and she not only listen to reply, but also understand. So I feel this is something, there's a huge challenges, because the central government, sometimes the Dhaka level policy, not understand what's going on in Cox's Bazar. Then sometimes Cox's Bazar is replying something, which is the bureaucrats, they don't usually understand what's happening in the country level. So this is I can feel like it's a collective failure, but I feel this is something which is triggered to me, like sometimes because of very small contributions, there is thousands of stories is untold. And from that moment, I feel, no, this is the time to work. And I really wanted to ensure the voice of the Rohingya, even in the policy forum. You know, like in our party, I first time introduced Rohingya issues as a priority in the party, you know, in the history of Bangladesh. So because I feel this is not only the issues of Bangladesh, and this is the issues of international community, and this is all of our responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, you know, one of the big issues, of course, is that Bangladesh wants these camps to close. They want the Rohingya ultimately to be able to go back to Myanmar, but there's no leeway being given by the Myanmar military regime, nor the Arakan army, for the return of these people. So, you know, in terms of policy, you know, how does that all fit what Bangladesh wants to do with these refugees?
I think basically the Bangladesh is trying for long-term solutions, and but still it is, you know, like in the policy level, you know, the interim, the chief advisor who committed like this time maybe some sort of there will be the development, but it's still like the politicians, they want to do some sort of development, but the thing is that collaboration of every actors, sometimes this is a big issue, you know, like, which is we are trying to really collaborate and connect with all the actors and all the you know, like all the, so that there will not be that much issues, you know. So Bangladeshi people, especially people like us who have seen these things for a long time, you know, we don't feel like the, you know, the Abdullah and others, they're so amazing. Even I'm doing politics, you know, I really competitive in just the even the recent national elections. But you know, the things I have learned is from the Rohingya community, and they have a huge creative resilience, and they have a huge things to learn. So I feel like Bangladesh government really should need a long-term and sustainable policies, and they will ensure the Rohingya voice, they will ensure the Rohingya rules and what Rohingya people are really looking for, rather than this all the time dumping and top-down approach. It is very important to come up from the bottom. So, you know, the way Jidi, like, she's connected, you know, it's really remarkable. You know, people really enjoy the whole journey. So I feel we are advocating because we feel that we are a hospitable country in a sense, and also we have experience in 1971. Our people, you know, that faced the problem, and now we have seen that this is a different experience, and they're the innocent victim, and there's nothing too wrong with them, and they have a huge talented people. So I think we need to provide them basic educations and others, and we are advocating, and the government also trying to do that. But this is really need the collective focus, and Rohingya should not be forgotten.
So I saw in the film, there's so many children everywhere in the refugee camp. So I mean, talk to us a little about what is the plan on education for the Rohingya children, because I know the Rohingya people greatly value education, and I know for many years there was resistance by the Bangladesh authorities for schools to open in the camps. That seems to have been resolved, but I mean, the issue of budget cuts and education, I'm sure, is still a big issue. So tell us a little bit about the education situation in the camps.
I think really as I'm representing the political party now, like even the government has a definitely different policies. But from our side, what we are trying to say that like the children, they're so innocent. Even every day, one statistics we have seen that recorded, more than 135 children born inside the camp. But like they have identical crisis, they have education's problem. Even there's a learning center. Some of the learning center, there's some structures, but there is sometimes no proper educations, and sometimes like they deprive of their rights, what they are getting from the donors. Sometimes there's a problem, there's a gaps. So I feel like the governments now, we are also proposing to the government, like how we can really make something alternative education tool where there's a peer learning, where there's creative resilience, where they can learn about their art of identity, they learn about their childhood, they learn about how they are culturally, come here. So I think there's a lot of challenges, but this elected government, we are really, really emphasizing and also try to, pursuing these things to the government. But let's see it just in, few weeks. So we are really, really optimistic. And from our side, I'm the member secretary and also I'm the head of South Asia. So I really, really emphasize like they need educations because they're the innocents. Why they're deprived of these things, so that it has to be acknowledged. Even international community should talk about it more. And though there is some sort of processes going on, but there is no complete thing that had to happen.
Right. Well, thank you. And thank you to the three of you for the amazing contributions you made to enable this documentary to be made. I'm now going to turn to the audience here that we have in Bangkok who have been very patient. We're going to ask for questions from the audience here. So please stay on the line because there may be some questions coming to you. If you do have a question, please identify yourself and your organization and indicate who you're sending the question to. Please go ahead.
Sebastian Berger from AFP. Question for Jidi. Really interesting film, really good personal stories, and so on. I was struck by your comment that the rapper was someone who you hadn't planned to be in the film and introduced himself there. You'd obviously done a great deal of pre-production work. When you first arrived at the camp, did you already have a pretty clear idea of what the film was going to be, or were you there with an open mind and looking to see what happened?
Yeah, I think I did do some thinking before I went in terms of like, what type of people I might want to follow. So I did send out like kind of notes, like I discussed with the team as well. Like I wanted to make sure that, for example, both men and women were represented. And I was also thinking, for example, about this was going to have an international audience, and many Rohingya women are veiled. So I did want at least one person who was comfortable enough to like kind of show her face. And this is sort of, and a lot of these considerations are, of course, like there's a tension in them, right? It's like I want to be able to feature anyone as they are, being mindful of like, their religious or like kind of cultural practices, but also trying to balance that with like, when international audiences might want to watch something, what might capture their attention. So I did, in that sense, like drew out certain like kind of archetypes or characters, and like I did a lot of research. Actually, the MSF report behind the wire was a very good piece of like kind of a resource for me where I could kind of see what people were going through. And then there was another book that I read was called I Feel No Peace. So I think I did my research in that sense so that I could kind of come up with potential people that I might want to follow. But then how the film would turn out like in the edit was not something I considered. And I think this was really the luxury of kind of self-starting a project and just deciding I'm going to be there for a month, which will hopefully be enough time to find people, to build the trust, also to kind of follow them a little bit, like, week in, week out, so that we can hopefully get some interesting stories, but also kind of what I mentioned about like those structured, like the expected stories, to dig a little bit underneath that or peel back some of the layers to kind of see what's maybe really on people's minds. So I always, I think sometimes when I'm working on a project that is commissioned, you need to do a lot of pre-production because the commissioner wants to sign off on every little bit before you start filming. So that's why I sometimes like to just self-start, and then if a commissioner wants to come on board, then great. But then I already filmed everything before Al Jazeera commissioned it, so they had no choice.
Very nice. Question, please go ahead.
Hi, Craig Grunwald. I'm an applied political economist, applied researcher in the humanitarian international development space. Was also a Peace Corps volunteer in Bangladesh a long time ago, so always interested in these topics. I think my question, after following the last year and a half of developments, there's kind of two trends happening in the humanitarian space, and after attending Asia Pacific Forum for Sustainable Development 2 weeks ago as well, we're seeing multi-track partnerships discussed. So this question's kind of for Salman, this first part. Amid the aid cuts, obviously everybody wants to see aid return. Bilateral aid and multilateral aid are in crisis and in decline, frankly. So there's been a lot of talk about how to engage the private sector. A lot easier said than done. So I guess the question to Salman would be, from MSF's purview there in Cox's Bazar, to what extent are you guys having those conversations? You had, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the father of microfinance there. Are there any discussions on how to try to bring investment into the camps and try to get some type of economic activity and not just look to aid dependency? And then I think for Abdullah as well, another common theme coming from Washington, discussions I was listening in on there with philanthropy, they're trying to look, I saw, Jidi, you focused on the identification issues a little bit on the film, you touched on that, but then also was discussed here in the commentary. Digital identification has been discussed a lot, and it seems to be a solution people are mobilizing around. Abdullah, how would that be transformational for you in any way, and the other members of the community that you engage with on a daily basis? What's the viability in a solution like that? Thank you very much.
Okay. So MSF first, I guess.
So thanks for the question. It's basically no one thought about this funding cut in the previous years. It came all of a sudden, and everyone was freaking out for funding. No one really thought of whom to reach out and how to tackle the situation. Everyone is after the funding cut announcement, everyone was focusing how to tackle the situation here. What's available? What's on hand? I think it's really time to also consider about the non-traditional donors, reaching out to them who don't really know about the crisis going on or how we can influence that. Even though within MSF, as of now, we have not faced a significant gap and cut within our operations. However, as I mentioned earlier, it will definitely impact. But the way we are also considering like how we could influence through our advocacy, through our messaging to non-traditional donors who can influence during the hardship where everyone is like looking for funds, looking for more support in terms of to continue the delivery of aids and delivery of services to the population. Yeah.
Second question was to Abdullah about digitalization, I guess? Digital identification. Is that something that's come across to you? Digital identification, is this something that's coming up in your world?
Thank you for the question. For us, in the refugee camp, we didn't see such. Actually, for long decades, the Rohingya have been facing the identity crisis. So once in Myanmar, we lost everything in terms of the our roots, to identity of being a refugee. So in the camp, somehow, we have been, the Bangladesh government consider us as a FDM and forcibly displaced personnel from Myanmar. So even we didn't have a refugee status here. And but the UNHCR, they somehow, treat us the lower class of the refugee, you can say, because we don't have all the rights that a refugee deserve, And so I would say I don't see any kind of such identification is being, initiated for the Rohingya refugee in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh.
Okay. I think we have one more question. Please go ahead.
Hi there. Can you hear? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Joelle. I work on humanitarian response with UN Women. First, just to say, Jidi and team, that was such a wonderful film, so very happy to have seen it. You did a great job of, capturing the life in the camps and what it's like to be there. I have two questions. First question is maybe for Jidi and Abdullah. In terms of access, you've talked a lot about access and the ability to film something like this in the camps. And then, of course, with Ramadan, it's so important to have both, nighttime, after dark, as well as daytime. How were you able to access the camps outside of daytime? What was that like? What was the security situation like for that? And my second question is, the woman in the film, was she able to get the scholarship that she was studying for?
First one, yes, how to film inside the camps at night. It is not allowed for any non-Rohingya people to be in the camps past, I think, they sometimes move the time, but I think right now it's 3:30 p.m. and it's considered for people's safety. Basically, after dark, there are armed groups active in the camps. There's crime, so dangers are real. But I think when I was thinking about capturing Ramadan, yes, so much happens after dark, right? And it's part of the ritual that I didn't want to capture. So I guess the way that I navigated that was also what I mentioned earlier. I would introduce myself at the different camps in charge, and I would just kind of notify them, and I would tell them, I understand that it's not allowed, but it's really important for my project. Not really asking for you to say yes or no, because I know you're not allowed to say yes, but I'm just kind of informing you. And I think that we only filmed kind of after dark or before sunlight in the camps where basically my team felt, one, really comfortable. They know all of the people, and maybe the part of me notifying the camp in charge is also just to let them know for kind of security, to be on alert in case something happens. And I also had them kind of on speed dial. So yeah, I guess sometimes as a documentary maker, still, of course, respecting the rules is important, but then taking measured risk and having a layered, kind of a layered system of people are in the know, get emergency contact, putting all of those things in place, I think made me at least feel comfortable enough to go. But more importantly, my team felt that the risk assessment was okay, and they were also able to kind of keep me safe. Yeah. So that's the first question. The second question, if the lady in the film, the student Jisma, yes, she managed to pass her IELTS exam, but she didn't choose to study in Canada, and she chose another place in Southeast Asia. Yeah, so she's currently at university. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. So you see these photos on the wall. These have been put up just today. They're going to be here for another week or so. There's a number of different photographers, including Jidi and others, who were behind that. But they're being sold to promote and support schools in the refugee camp. And I think we actually have some footage from the...
Yes, so there's this one particular school that is the Mayu Sunlight Community High School in Camp 1 East. I think we prepared like a short video just so you can see what that school is like, but they have 14 teachers who teach about 500 students, and they've been running since 2023, and purely just like by the will and the hard work of the community. So yeah, we're selling the prints on the wall. You can check at the reception, and the proceeds will be donated to them, because yeah, I think another thing that I also observed was that education and community education at an elementary level is already, you know, like not enough. But then it's sort of like what comes after that, right? It's like, I think just Matt talked about it in the film, is like she was never able to access any formal education, whether in Myanmar or Bangladesh. So kind of learning the basics, and a lot of parents also kind of jump in at that stage. But I think especially like kind of the high school stage is so critical, because that will also kind of, yeah, either open the doors to any potential, like, you know, getting a student type of visa to get you out of the camps, or pursuing other types of ambitions. So that's why for today I chose the high school to donate the proceeds to.
Right. Do we have the film that we can show? How long is the film?
The Facebook video.
Video, Mimala? We're going to show the video really quickly.
Yeah, it just
Here it is. Yeah.
It just gives you a quick impression of. So yeah.
This is a high school.
This is a high school, correct? And it's basically just this room, but yeah, that's the high school.
Yeah. Well, and they're using they're using stools for desks. How many teachers are there?
14 teachers.
14 teachers.
Yeah, 14 teachers on 500 students. I think this is just from their Facebook. I think they do have girls as well, but it's a separate class.
Yeah.
So they run different slots throughout the day just to be able to accommodate more students.
Yeah. We asked them to do a video for us, but they were shy about their English.
Yeah.
So we have this from their Facebook. So that gives you an idea. Okay, get that. Okay, well let me just say to the panelists, does anybody have some last words that you want to share, or last thoughts you want to share about the film, the camps, and the situation? You first, Jidi.
Oh, me first. Yeah, I think just really hope that that sometimes actually going to places or seeing how people tell their own stories kind of gives people a little bit of a different perspective, or just like a point of connection. Like it sounds strange to say, but I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this project. I met many incredible people and found it quite inspiring just to see what they're up to, and like kind of the level of ambition that people have as well. So I had great food as well. Like everyone was so insistent on sharing, breaking fast together, and like sharing iftar. So I think a lot of that from the one side is like, as a filmmaker, you don't want to disturb the scene, and especially in a refugee camp, you don't want to take resources that are already so scarce. But at the other hand, it's like, people are very generous, and being hospitable, especially sharing food, is such an important part of the culture that it doesn't really matter how much is available, it will be shared. So I think, yeah, for me, it was a wonderful experience to go myself and film this, and hopefully also kind of bring this out into the world.
Let me tune to our friends online. Suza Udin, please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I think I just want to mention one thing, that Rohingya, they don't only face the genocide, they went through the cultural genocide, which JD seriously mentions. I think their art of identity should be recognized in the right way, and also international community should not forget it, and their ministry participation, the way Jidi did it, I think it's very important to keep continuing, and it's really, really need to work, and let's not forget it. Thank you so much, and thank you all.
Thank you. Salman, would you like to say a few last words?
I think I would like to also thank Jidi for her great work, and this is a great initiative, and we all should come forward to look for opportunities to highlight the Rohingya issues and the challenges they're facing in this context for 9 years, and ultimately the situation is not going to get better sometime soon. So whoever and whatever shape and platform and format we can, we should try to highlight the challenges that they are facing here in the camp and overall.
Thank you. And Abdullah, you get the last word.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, today in this panel discussion, and also grateful to Jedi. She visited the Rohingya camp and captured the most, important movement of the camp to share to the world. So I would like to say that, as you have experienced through the film about the situation in the camp, I would like to invite more, filmmakers to visit the Rohingya refugee camp, especially in this critical situation. There are so many things to be shared from different aspects, from different perspectives. The world should know about the Rohingya situation, and we have frequently the fund card and the ration card. So as I mentioned, the Rohingya refugees are entirely dependent on the humanitarian aid. So we would like to hear our voice by the world and the people around the world, and so the people, can empathize our situation. And because for the last 9 years, we didn't have any changes in our crisis, or we don't see the possibility of a solution to return to our home country. So in between, if we need to stay longer here, so we must need the support from the people around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming and seeing this amazing film. Thank you for bringing this amazing film to us. And do take a look at the photographs on the wall. Thank you again to our panelists for calling in. And good night from the FCCT.